Good day, everyone. How are you? I'm Tiffany Rothman, Filter 90211. I'm here with my wonderful and amazing co host, Chris Sloan. How are you, Chris?
Tiffany, I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm doing well too. So, today topic is wives of alcoholic, like something like based on the film The Tree Growing Brooklyn. You know that's film, right? It's a
Yes.
classic. Okay, so do you know early research showed that there are four archetypes of wives of alcoholic?
So when you're talking about an alcoholic wife, there's going to be four different kind of characteristics of these wives. There's four of them.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And
Can
what's
you
the
believe
first
that?
one?
Suffering Susan.
A suffering Susan. Okay.
Suffering Susan. Yep.
And then what's the
And
second one?
controlling Catherine.
All right. So we go from suffering to controlling. And then the third one is what?
Wavering Winifred.
Okay. And then the
The
fourth.
fourth one is punitive Polly. These archetypes, why historical, significant, shouldn't be used to label individual, but there are four archetypes, wives. See, the suffering Susan, the script is a descriptive term for a partner of an alcoholic who may appear withdrawn, depressed, isolate, experiencing feelings of guilt, shame, and self-blame. See, this pattern can be linked to the stress of trauma of living with an alcoholic partner and potentially leading to symptoms of depression and anxiety.
So it sounds like a suffering Susan is a wife that the wife of an alcoholic that they're literally shut down, no confidence, no power. They're kind of huddled in a corner, kind of like a puppy,
Yeah.
and that's got to be such an empty feeling.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, she just suffer. I guess the suffering Susan must be for like in the old days when they cannot get divorced because of the church and there's no law. And plus, divorce in the old days, they will lose their dowry. A man can divorce a woman, but not the other way around.
It's almost like being a slave.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And the second one is controlling Catherine. It need for control. See, this archetype describes a partner who may attempt to control their environment. This is a coping mechanism for the unpredictability of living with someone with alcoholic. And the modern perspective understand this as potential response to feeling overwhelmed and helpless. And when I was in the program, the school psychology program, one of my colleagues said that she was married to a psychiatrist who's also an alcoholic, a very wonderful man. Like he very sweet, very wonderful, but he's an alcoholic. And she felt that she became, before he died, of course, she became more controlling of the environment.
So she became a controlling Catherine, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. She's very nice. She's a good mother, very hardworking, and she would accept her fate. I mean, see the husband he drink a lot. I mean, whatever he make, he would drink. He blew it on alcoholic, and then he died and left her with nothing. And she became like a teacher. She was struggling and raising the two kids and she's able to make it. But she never complained about him. She always said he's a very sweet person, and he probably was. Alcoholic can be very charming. They just sick. That's it.
You know, what a contrast between a suffering Susan and a controlling Catherine.
Hmm.
Two totally different types of personalities. You go from somebody who's kind of submissive and then somebody who's controlling with the
Like I
same
said,
situation, an
modern,
alcoholic
yeah.
husband.
It's more modern because the suffering Susan must be the old days, Victorian period, probably to like 1930, 40, 50.
Yeah,
And
no
so, yeah,
control, staying in the closet,
yeah.
no respect.
Hmm.
So what you're saying is, in this day and age, we're probably seeing, if there's an alcoholic wife, we're seeing more controlling Catherines.
Yes, and even the movie, a film, Growing Brooklyn, she's a little controlling of the situation too. And I don't know, you remember that film or not? The husband, he was a wonderful man. He's a singer. He's just like he played the piano and then he waited on table. He really couldn't get a lot of gigs, and she had to take in laundry, and they have like two kids going on three. So it
Then,
was really tough. And
so then we have a wavering Winfred.
yeah, that's like an archetype described a partner who experienced a constant state of ambivalence and doubt, particularly within the context of supporting a loved one struggling with alcohol and use disorder. See, this archetype reflects the emotional roller coaster and uncertainty that can accompany such a situation. So that person, it might be very, what you call it, moody and roller coaster. And see, the elaboration would be like ambivalent and doubt, like a wavering Winifred often struggle with conflicting emotion, swinging between hope for recovery and despair about their partner's progress.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of like unbalance and imbalance. So going back and forth in emotions, having hope but then feeling despair. That's kind of bouncing between a controlling Catherine and uh, bouncing between a controlling Catherine and a suffering Susan. In a way, you're kind of in between.
Yep, that's the third one.
And then the
And then the
punitive
fourth one,
Polly.
oh yeah, the anger and hostility one. This archetype describes a partner who may exhibit anger and punitive behaviors. See, modern psychology recognizes that anger can be a common response to stress, frustration, and feeling of powerless. Now, this makes more sense to me on a regular basis.
I could see that.
Yeah, that I think I can see that nowadays, especially nowadays. But nowadays they get divorced if they cannot deal with somebody who cannot stop drinking. Once I was working at this school, and I asked somebody like, "Are you married? Someone I work with?" And she said, "I killed two husbands." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "My first one, he's an alcoholic and he died, and the second one she lived with, he's also an alcoholic and he died. So they drank themselves to death."
So you wonder, how did this person attract two alcoholics?
Yes, like I said, like they're very charming, they're very delightful, and maybe she from a family that have this kind of issues without realizing it.
And then let's talk about some films.
Yeah, The Tree Growing Brooklyn, that's like one of the classics. That's always been my favorite book. And this describe how Katie Nolan, Francine's mother, the embodies the archetype of the resilient provider of a strong mother figure. Now, in those days, it could be considered controlling because the film is like in between the Victorian day and the modern day. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yep.
how she fits into the archetype. Like she's hardworking and practical. She's very pragmatic and resourceful, who like takes in various jobs like cleaning, serving in the cafe to support her family. Like she would do anything. And she focused on survival and security, provide her children well-being futures, often sacrifice her own needs and desire because sometimes you don't have enough for the family. She had to sacrifice it. And that's usually what women would do without complaining. But then again, too much sacrifice, not so great either. Like once I was working in a summer job with this gentleman. He was about to retire, and we were like doing clerical work. And he complained that how when he was young, he had to sacrifice a lot. Like he said, if I see a nice pair of slack and a sweater, I can't buy them because I have 5 kids or something, and I made them. I have to support them, and I think he would say that in front of his children as well. You know what I mean?
And what was the
Yes.
outcome of that? What eventually
None of
happened?
none of his children live with him. They all move out. They all single. They move out. They live around him. And my other colleague said, you know how difficult he is. None of his kids would live with him, and he has a nice home and this and that, and they would just all move out and say, no, thank you. Too much sacrifice. That's what happened. If you sit there and you talk about how you sacrifice for your children, who needs it? Who would want to get married and have a family and have to suffer like he does? I mean, that's anybody could have that situation. You know what I mean by sacrificing, like uh, like even if you're wealthy and you have a bunch of kids, you say, "Oh, I saw a yacht I really like, but I couldn't because you children needs tuitions pay
Right,
for."
right. It's a sacrifice. I could have had this, but I can't because of you.
Right, but that's not something that you would say in front of anybody.
No. Well, it's not something that
That
you
you would
would.
say, period.
I mean, in life, what's interesting is in life that it's all about sacrifice or self. And when you have a family, you know, the need to be able to sacrifice more for your family is critical. We could
Yes, but
all have things in life, but without the
mhm.
ability to provide for our families, um, that creates a a challenge within oneself. Is what's more important, themselves or their family?
But you know what? If a normal person, if you really have a family and you want it, a normal person would call it responsibilities. Because some people they take offense when you call it sacrifice. Because you said like, oh, you're such a good parent, how you sacrifice, you do this, you do that, and it would offend them. Said like, I didn't sacrifice anything. I do whatever I wanted. And
Yeah,
I
it's a
said,
good
well,
point. I mean,
yes,
so then it goes back to if
responsibility, yeah,
so if one,
and
we all have needs and wants, but all right, so I have a want to buy something for myself, but I have a responsibility of family. That
yeah,
responsibility should then be I want to do it more than I need to do it, correct?
exactly.
Yes.
And because the thing is, one of my colleagues said something like priority. It's a responsibility, not because when I said like, well, maybe they mean sacrifice and you could go out and party at night on a Friday night, but you choose to stay home and take care of your kid when you were young. And she said that's a responsibility. I said yes, that is a responsibility, but they see it as a sacrifice. But the truth, it is a responsibility. You choose to have a family. You choose to have children. You have to prioritize what you like. I mean, of course, somebody might want to go out one night or whatsoever, but they can't do it. So they have to stay home and take care of their child because their child might need X, Y, Z. They can do it the following week and hire a babysitter. It's called prioritize.
So let's look at the character of
Of
Johnny
Katie, yeah.
Nolan.
Yeah, but okay. So let's see about Johnny Nolan. He is a sweetie. I mean, he loves his wife. He loves Mrs. Nolan. He loves his children. It's just like his dream is to become a singer, and he can play piano, he can sing, but he is not from a well-to-do family, so he had to do things like very locally in a very modest, humble neighborhood that he couldn't get out. And he was hoping that he would be discovered, but in the meantime, nobody advertised him, no one promote him, and he would feel like, oh, maybe I can do better. But the wife would say like, I can't count on this. I have to be realistic. Like she would move into a cheaper apartment. I don't know if you saw the movie or not. They move into something like smaller and up above the top of the building so that they can pay less rent. and she would take in more the job, and like cleaning job, serving job, or washing as a job, and then she would say something like, maybe our daughter can drop out of school. Like Katie, she's strong will, determination to ensure her children have a better life, especially through education. But she would say something like, the girl, she wants school, she can always fight for it. She can find a way to do it. But the son, he doesn't care, so he should go to school. And plus, in the old days, they would think about the son over the daughter. They would say something like, even though it's not true in their case, they would say something like, the boys might have to take care of his family when the daughter can be married and being taken care of the husband. Even though that's a stereotype and that 99.9% didn't happen. But
It
that's what they
happens a
think.
lot now, I could tell you that.
Really? Okay, that's nice if it happened.
It's
I
a
don't
lot
see it, but
different now than it was then because back then, yeah, the husband in those days, if you were the man of the household, the husband, you supported your family. You were
but
the
they
one
don't.
who was
They
the anchor.
couldn't. Right, but they couldn't because Johnny Nolan, he was an alcoholic. See that nowadays it's too expensive, and everybody have to work, and different things are different nowadays. But back in those days, like Mrs. Nolan, she could have, before she get married, she could have some kind of training, like secretary or nurse aide, something that would be easier for her to get a job. But they don't see it that way. And plus, one thing about Johnny, when he sing, when he performed, women and everybody would go crazy over him. And he would take Katie in his arm and he would walk down the street and make her feel like she's the queen. And his character, he's a wonderful man. I mean, see, nowadays, if you marry to somebody like that, and the woman could have a secure job, it will be fine because he could be a house husband, taking care of the children, and making sure that they're okay, and this and that, and it would be fine. But back in those days, since she doesn't have a career, she didn't have a secure job, it was much harder on her. Like, look at how she's fiercely independent and refuse accepting any kind of charity believed as a sign of weakness. And about her complex maternal love, like she admits she favored her son over her daughter, even though she tried to treat them equally. Like I said, she feel that the son have to be more responsible, more successful. And the Makia type, that's a head of family due to her husband's unreliability. She takes charge and she made crucial decisions for the household. And she's also very pragmatic. She deals with harsh realities of poverty, prioritizing practical solution over dreams or sentimentality. A trace of contract with her husband Johnny, like she knows that she has to be that way. And she never say an unkind word to Johnny. She never really complained about him. She loves him dearly. That's how I see it. A very strong person, and she's unwavering, her mother's unwavering strength and dedication in the face of adversity. She's really like deny her own needs, desire to ensure children's survival and future. Again, in those days they call it sacrifice her own needs, but she probably see it as a responsibility because she loves her children, and she is a strong mother type, the quote unquote strong mother archetype in literature.
So
And
they're interesting characters. Johnny is not the typical husband back in those days, and and his wife Katie is more of the husband back then. Like she's got all the attributes of being the breadwinner, right? Even though she's
yes,
not necessarily the breadwinner, but she has all the attributes. He's this artist dreamer kind of guy who's a good guy, but he's not going to be able to provide. Plus, because of that, he's just not emotionally as strong as Katie, and he
yeah,
succumbs to alcoholism.
yeah. Even though verbally he said he wanted to provide, but he's a dreamer without the resource and the ability to make his dreams come true. I mean, he loves his children. He cannot always be a good father in a conventional way. I mean, Frankie's dress is drunkenness, and Francine, I mean, her name is Fancy, yeah, and he loves her more than Katie does, and he's weak, but he's unable to survive in the crushing poverty, and he is a dreamer and an impractical romantic, and lacks the ability to do or incentive to make his dream come true, and what's not to like? He's easy to talk to. He's super charming. In addition, he's being easy on the eyes. And he's nice looking, man, and he know how to dress. Even though he has one outfit, but he would wear them over and over again. He didn't even have a winter coat. You see how when he went out in the snow to say that he's going to look for a job in the middle of the night? See, that's really impractical. He have like a scarf, a small scarf. He just wrap it around his neck, and he would totally serenade you too. Afterward, he probably tell you something interesting about local politics. See, Johnny, he's fun and he make you feel great about yourself,
Sounds
and
like
that's
he'd
what
be a great
I like
salesman.
to
He should have been. You know what? I think he had a career path and he didn't even know it. He could have been
Yeah,
a
a salesman.
salesperson in, like, say, the story Death of a Salesman.
In those days, he
He could
probably
be
doesn't
like a
really
Willy
look.
Loman.
But yeah, you're right. But you know what? He went out to look for a job in the middle of the night, and he catch ammonia, and he died. This is when his wife was pregnant with a third child. So I was kind of laughing, halfway laughing. I said, like, he died because he know he has to find a better job, a more practical job, and he died. Got sick
Well, he
and died.
wasn't thinking too far ahead
Yeah,
that you shouldn't go out in a snowstorm with just a little scarf on. I could see this Johnny guy in Southern California, kind of like a beach kind of guy, a surfer kind of guy, good
yeah.
looking, charismatic, intelligent, but a bit lost in life. Doesn't completely have uh, hard skills, but has a lot of soft skills, right? But still
But you know
struggling.
what? Like I say, his character would work much better nowadays.
Yes,
The wife had to get a secure job.
yes.
And most women they don't mind doing that. And he's very talented. He's a talented singer and piano
He'd be a
player.
great entertainer now if he had somebody supporting his career to get it going. Like, he'd be a
Exactly.
comedian or an actor or something,
And
right?
he can also teach his children to sing and to play piano and help them with their homework, and the children can really excel from it. Like his if his character living nowadays, it will be fine. And he can still
So what
sing
you're
and
saying, Tiffany, is Johnny was just too far ahead of his time. He should have been living now, and he'd be fine now. But the question is, would he still be an alcoholic in today's world? If he lived during present times, would he still turn into an alcoholic because of his personality?
he may be, but today we have help. Counseling, psychotherapy is a lot better than before. He can go to AA for free. I mean, he could go for help if he want to, and he can still sing and play the piano. He will be fine, because don't forget, a lot of musicians, they are hooked on drugs one way or another too.
Well, they write some pretty darn good lyrics on drugs. They really do. I had a conversation with a friend of mine this past week. In his younger days, he was on a lot of drugs, and he did almost everything you could do. And he could understand how these artists could really be very creative in writing lyrics and music while on drugs. He goes, you start thinking of things that you would never think of unless you're on an illicit, substance.
Oh boy,
So what do you think of
creative
that?
writing.
Like, so the question then is, was Johnny even more creative when he was drunk?
Maybe this depends on the person. Listen, I took creative writing in high school when my English wasn't good. And one time they asked you to write of a character of a prostitute. I got an A.
And tell me how did you research that? So I
I just
assume you've
usually
never been in prostitution. So how did you
no.
write such a great story?
I was only 15, 16 at the time. I think I watched TV. I
So
saw
what
it
can
on
you know
TV.
about prostitution at age 15 if you weren't a prostitute?
Oh, they wasn't talking about making money. They talk about it. They said you can write anything about it. So I just write about the character interact with the guy before she get paid.
And what's the character's name? Did you name that character?
No, 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 no. It's from a book, and I forgot what book it is. One of the book we have to write, we have to read, and we just read a short part about it,
Oh, okay. I see.
and then I just use that, and I guess I saw film or movies, and I wrote about it, and I got an A. And she announced in the class, she said, "Hey, come and take your sexy paper." And people were looking at me
You know,
like, "Jesus."
speaking of prostitutes and stories, like when you think back, what story is the most famous prostitute story in a movie that you could recall in your opinion? I have my opinion. I want to hear yours. If you had to think about a story, a movie about a prostitute, what movie comes to your mind first?
Marriage, Italian style,
Marriage Italian Style?
with Sophia Loren. Yeah,
Oh, Sophia Loren. So, okay. That's going back a little bit. I was thinking Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
So Sophia Loren was
Mhm.
playing a prostitute.
Yes,
I
she's
could
pretty
see her
funny.
making a lot of money as a prostitute, definitely.
She she have three children from three different men, and she ended up falling in love with the with one of them who played by I forgot his name. I mean, Macchione. He married to Catherine Deneuve or something. Or he has a child with Catherine Deneuve. So what happened was she wanted him to marry her. She said one of the children is yours, and he said like which one? I said I don't want to tell you. I want them to be loved equally. And after decade of knowing each other, he finally married her. That's when he starts to really fall in love with her. But at that time, she doesn't love him anymore. She was too bitter. He put her through a lot. But she married him so her children can have a father. Go marriage Italian style.
Marriage Italian Style, Sophia Loren, the beautiful, exotic Sophia Loren.
And by the way, the lingerie is beautiful.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
The lingerie.
I think anything Sophia Loren wears probably looks beautiful, right?
Yes, she wasn't skinny, but
No,
like
she
my
was
favorite.
like kind of that perfect build.
Build, yeah, she's my more modern day build.
And
Like,
and not to get too far off the subject, but you know me, I like to improv, Tiffany. When you think about the different actresses in Hollywood over the decades, the body shapes kind of change per decade. We go from full figure to semi to really skinny and thin, and then back to more full figure. I find it interesting how a lot of the, we call them Hollywood star actresses, how the attributes of their bodies change over the decades. Because that was a good point you brought up with Sophia Loren. You know, she was kind of more of a solid full figure woman. Wasn't too thin, wasn't big either. Well known for her body, right? And then we have decades of actresses where we go to extremes where they're really thin and skinny, and I think it's just how society is at that point. So sorry
well,
if I'm getting off track, but I like to every now and then just take something that we're talking about and go down another path. So let's go
yeah.
back to our current path of alcoholic wives. We were talking about Johnny and Katie, um, and so ultimately he dies of pneumonia. Correct?
Yes. He died, and the baby was born. But after the baby was born, there's a police officer in the neighborhood who always have an eye for Mrs. Nolan. And he came and he proposed marriage. See in the old days, like they don't really they don't really date. They just want to get married. And he came. He said like I have a good job. I make good money, and I always have an eye on you. And I love your children. Let's get married. And I think this is when she was pregnant or something, and then he will adopt the baby. She wanted the baby. He wanted the baby to have his name.
He was eyeing her up for a long time, waiting for. He was basically waiting for Johnny to just blow it, either run away or drop dead. In this case, he drops dead, and he just scooped her right up. And it's interesting that you just said what you did, meaning, or what he said is that he's been watching her from afar, and that I guess maybe in that day it was more common that if you found somebody, you just married them. You didn't necessarily court them for a long time, right?
Yes,
You
because
just jump into marriage and get. He
so
was just sitting there waiting, thinking, look at this guy, Johnny. This guy's a mess. And she's the perfect woman. I would love to be with her. I'm just going to sit and wait for Johnny to blow it. And sure enough, Johnny blows it big time. And he
and
comes
of
in and
course,
scoops her up.
and Mrs. Nolan said, "I don't want your money." Like she's also very proud. She would just like do things on her own. So when she agreed to the marriage, the children tell each other, "Oh, the baby gonna have a better life than us because the baby gonna have a good father taking care of her."
But what a sad story, though, for Johnny, because, like, he
Yeah,
bites the dust. Like, he loses big time on everything. And then he
yes,
dies. And then his wife
because he's
goes on and probably lives happily ever after, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
he's
there's
ahead of his
tragedy.
time.
Where there's love and opportunity, there's also tragedy, right?
Yes, yeah. No, the thing about Johnny is like the touching scene is like he have a gig once and he had a lot of tips and he go home and he just pulled it out. He said he had all my tip. He was going to give it to her and she's like, I don't want your tip. We need that for other things. Like she want him to take it and pay for other things. And so it seemed to me like whatever he would like hand it over. So it's not like he doesn't want her to suffer. He doesn't, but he just like don't know how. It's like if he would go into therapy, in those days they don't have AA, they don't have help. But he would go into some kind of counseling. He might be able to survive. But like but alcoholics, sometimes a lot of time they drink themselves to death, male or female. Like you want to talk about some of the film, like The Lost Weekend, 1945. It's probably close to a street going Brooklyn. It's a film noir directed by Billy Wilder, starring Ray Milland and Jane Wyman. That's his Mrs. The first Mrs. Ronald Reagan. The film won 7 Academy. The movies is like about Nicolas Cage, and he's a suicide alcoholic. He moved to Las Vegas and drank himself to death after losing his family and his job. So if Johnny Nolan, if somebody like that, if she left him a long time ago, he might drink himself to death.
I just got one question. Why does Nicolas Cage in his movies always have something to do with Las Vegas? I'm just calling that out. Anyway,
So
and then there's
maybe
another
it's
movie.
the place to party.
Everything that Nicolas Cage does ends up in Vegas. So, I don't know. Maybe he's got
And
some
what happened in Vegas, stay in Vegas,
stays in
remember?
Vegas, supposedly, but if it doesn't really, because the whole world gets to see what happens in the movie. So, you
That's
know,
nowadays. Yeah.
and then you have the movie Flight.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And that was
What do
directed
you
by
think?
Robert Zemeckis. So the movie Flight, directed by Robert Zemeckis, who also directed Back to the Future. Just a little
Hmm.
trivia.
Yeah. Denzel Washington as Whip. William Whip.
An
The tank
alcoholic
scene.
pilot. Oh my gosh, that's a good
Oh
combination.
God. Yeah, that is something.
Yeah, I want a pilot to be an alcoholic. Um, yeah, that's good. Well, you know what though, Tiffany, there is, and I don't know if it's an urban legend or a myth or if it's truth. There's a lot of talk that there are pilots that are alcoholics out there because of the
Yeah.
stress of the job.
The stress is very high.
I mean, you have people's lives in your hands literally every time you take off and land, and they're paid pretty well as far as a job. They are, but you know they're not like millionaires, and there's a lot of stress and long hours and time away from family, right?
Yeah.
So you know when you think about it, does it make sense that pilots may drink a bit here and there? I have a story. I have a very good friend um, who did a lot of travel over the years with work and his wife's work as well. So he would travel probably 32 weeks out of the year. And I remember him telling me a story where he was at the I don't know if it was LAX or one of the airports that he was flying in and out of. He was talking to a guy at the bar. The guy was drinking, you know, quite a bit, but not like drunk drinking, but enough. And then he's getting on his plane and he realizes the guy that he saw in the bar is getting on his plane. It was one of the pilots.
Oh boy.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Okay. When we used to go to the beach in New Jersey, this is like in Jersey Shore when we were still living in New York, and we know this couple, and I heard that the husband, he's a surgeon, but he would drink and get completely drunk on every Sunday night before surgery, and he's a successful surgeon.
I mean, I don't doubt that professionals like pilots and surgeons do not indulge in alcoholic beverages. I'm sure they do. Okay. The question is where does that indulgement go from a drinker to an addiction? Now we talked about addiction last week, which alcoholism is an addiction. So we're kind of interlinking last week, our episode last week and this week
Yeah.
is alcoholism, but it's an addiction. So you could drink socially and still be highly functional, right? That's not an addiction.
You can drink a lot, but still, but you can be somewhat it's like a semi-alcoholic or something, but still function. It's depend how just you can tolerate it. See me, I don't drink because I have stomach issues and I can't tolerate alcohol, so I wouldn't do it. But the other people can.
So in
So
the movie
alcohol,
Flight, the character Whip, played by Denzel, he could face criminal charges um, based on his intoxication. And he also
oh,
used cocaine, I think, as well, correct?
oh gee, I I'm not sure about that.
Well, what a
I'm
mix, alcohol and
surprised, but
cocaine, you know,
oh
hey,
geez, yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
and then he denies being impaired. So while an investigation is underway, he's told to keep his act together. However, letting go of his addiction is not easy. And again, it goes back to addiction. It's not.
No, look at the old movie, The Days of Wine and Roses. She she refused. She lost her kid because she told her husband that she's not going to give up drinking. Her husband said, "You have to stop drinking. Then you can have custody or access to our 5 years old daughter." She can't do it. The day of wines and roses. So it's just too hard. So she let him have the kids and she walked away. Now you talk about that's really sick. Because she can alcoholic. They can't get up on time to take the kid to school. They can't pick the kids up on time, and they can't feed the kids on time. They just pass out all the time when they're not drinking. At least that's
So,
something similar case.
alcohol, not a good thing when it's an addiction. What's
Raising
another film?
children,
Let's talk about another film.
the Basket Diary. What do you think of that one?
Well,
Promise high school basketball player and then develop addiction to heroin.
it's a well-known story
Yeah, that's so sad. Imagine if you
based on a
are,
novel by Jim
oh,
Carroll.
jeez, yeah. That's really sad when you have a promised career and then you become an addict.
An up and
Heroin.
comer was in that movie, The Basketball Diaries.
Oh,
Leonardo DiCaprio.
yeah.
1995.
Yeah.
Back then, people
What's
probably didn't really know who Leonardo was other than being on some sitcoms, but eventually became, well, pretty well known, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, back to a tree growing Brooklyn. Back to that. I love the book. I read it when I was again around 16 years old, and I just found it a very, very sweet story.
So, when we were talking about movies last week with addiction,
Yeah.
we were talking about the movie The Hustler with Paul Newman. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He had, I believe, two addictions in that movie. He was addicted to gambling. He was a pool player. He played billiards, pool. He was addicted to that. But I think he was also addicted to alcohol too at the same time. So he's not only got a gambling issue, and this is very common, many gamblers have drinking issues as well. What do you think about that?
It's sad. It's difficult.
Yeah. The question is, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? What comes first, the alcoholism or the gambling, then the alcohol? It's like, pick it.
Probably at the same times.
Seems like you're drinking some herbal tea there. What kind of tea?
Yes. Herbal tea. This is the only thing I'm addicted to is herbal tea.
Herbal tea. I'm drinking some Starbucks coffee that I made, instant coffee.
Oh, so that's what you addict to.
Um,
Instant coffee.
yeah, 2 cups. My addiction is only 2 cups a day at max, so I don't have to drink that much. But
That's a lot.
two
I don't even
cups,
drink coffee.
2 cups of coffee. I don't know if that's a lot.
I don't have any coffee because I can't take caffeine. Caffeine or alcohol, I can't take them. Herbal tea, yes, I might have 2 to 3 cups a day.
But I start every morning now with hot water with lemon juice and milk thistle. I start that every morning on an empty stomach. It's a good cleanse for your liver. Speaking,
Mhm.
if you're an alcoholic out there, or you're drinking a lot, the challenge becomes you're going to destroy your liver. So try to do at least a detox in the morning, maybe before you start your drinking, and have some lemon juice with hot water, milk thistle, maybe a little honey. It's a good cleanse. And I'm sorry if I'm blowing my nose a lot. I think my allergies are kicking in today.
Yes, that's the allergy season.
I woke up sneezing.
Oh, take some Allegra. Yeah. So now, can I, well, invite people to do the incense cleansing now?
And what's our incense of the day?
Incense, let's say, the new incense cleaning, like we line it up, see?
And when we're doing this, Tiffany, let's create some universal vibrations, and let's influence some vibrations my way, so I could have a great week this week. Okay,
Yes,
successful week. I
absolutely.
want a successful week, great week, healthy week. Let's send those vibrations to me and then to everybody else.
Exactly. Send it to you. The fragrance of this incense invite the awakened mind to be present with us now. The fragrance of this incense fills our practice center, protects and guards our mind from all wrong thinking.
You know what else I'm wearing again, Tiffany? I'm wearing my Mojo bracelet here,
Uh huh.
and this Mojo bracelet has magnets in it,
Oh,
and it creates, a magnetic pulse throughout my body. And you've heard probably of where magnets can affect in a positive way the fluctuations of our body and the neurosensors.
yes.
So I'm wearing my Mojo bracelet again, just to let everybody know. And if Mojo wants wants to sponsor Filter 90211. We would be happy to have you on as a sponsor. It's keeping me very healthy.
Great. And now healing with Kuan Yi Oracle. What we have here? Oh, Empress of the Pearl. See?
Why does
See
it
this,
seem
Chris?
like all those pictures are of naked people on those cards?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see because they need a naked or semi. Not all of them. They just semi. Like this one is this one is a topless.
Well, that's
And
my
the last
point. I
one,
mean, is there
no,
something
she
with
just
being
mean
in peace and not having clothes on? I don't know.
maybe. See the one last week, Immortals, they all wear clothes.
Yeah, but that looked a little intense, that picture.
Yeah. And the one before that, the Dynasty of the Divine Mother. Yeah, they
Are they wearing
partial top.
clothes? Oh, she's wearing a nice gown. Okay.
No, but she's also topless. This one's more
Yeah,
topless.
like it's very burlesque.
Yes. So, Empress of the Pearl, you have a gift of great values, born of struggle and challenge, seeing challenge as a way to expand your spiritual light empowers you to focus on the growing light rather than getting caught up in suffering. Now, just imagine you are in a peaceful place. You become aware of the light, glowing and bright, and that's is below Kuan Yin is shining within your own heart. Breathe in and say, I now choose to release any negative feeling that has drained me or disturbed me. I release it with love and allow my own Kuan Yin heart to create its pearl now for the highest good, and so be it.
I feel
So,
very
Chris,
relaxed now.
so you want to talk about the insult before the four-letter words?
Insults. So after we get everybody relaxed, let's throw out some insults. Um, okay, here. Um, let's see here. Here's one. He is simply a shiver looking for a spine to run up. Paul Keating. Wow. How many people we know are like that? They're just shivers and they're just looking for a spine. Whew. That's a good one. I got to use that one this week with somebody. Here's another one. He loves nature in spite of what it did to him. Forrest Tucker. I live that every day. I wake up every day. I look in the mirror and I say, boy, I love nature despite what it did to me, especially what I look like in the morning. If you think I look bad now, Tiffany, you should see me in the morning. It's pretty bad.
I don't think you look bad. I don't think you ever would look bad.
No,
Why? Your hair's intact. Your
it's
hair's
pretty bad.
intact,
Um,
and your allergy might make you feel bad.
no, I look pretty bad in the mirror. The good news is I only break a couple mirrors a year, so that's a good thing. Here's another one. Oh, this is a good one. This is from Mae West. And you know Mae West, she had kind of an attitude, right, to her. Um,
Yep.
his
I love
mother
Mae
should have
West.
thrown him away and kept the stork. I think people said that about me too. Yeah. Other
I
than
don't
maybe
think
I was
so.
part of the milkman's deal, but
I don't think so.
you got to love Mae West.
Yes, I do. Like, oh, Mae.
I'll read another one because I'm on a roll now. Some cause happiness wherever they go. Others whenever they go. Oscar Wilde. I think I've lived that too, Tiffany. I think I cause happiness with people sometimes when I'm leaving the room, not when I'm entering the room. So, on that note, talking about leaving the room, um, that brings us to the end of our episode.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
everyone.
Tiffany.
I'm Tiffany Rothman at Field the 90211 with my amazing and wonderful co host. Have a good week.